Derrick Green from Sepultura, thank you so much for taking the time out, man. Have you actually taken that much time out in the last 12 months? Because it doesn't look like you have, man.
This is all new territory for me. I haven't taken this much time off in over 20 years. So this is the first, the second summer being home, which it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, but believable because it's happening. It's happened to a lot of us.
Yeah.
So, but I'm thankful for a lot of other things. So I can't really complain too much.
When you got the call up to, hey, Derrick, would you mind being in Sepultura? Did you even believe that phone call was real? Or were you like, all right, who's pranking me? This is bullshit. Bang, hang up the phone.
Well, I mean, I wish it was just like one phone call and that was it. It was definitely a drawn out process, which, was nerve wracking at the time thinking back. But it was definitely something I never imagined if somebody told me years later, like at that time, like, hey, you're going to move to Brazil and be in this Brazilian metal band. I never would have believed them. Yeah. But all the things that I did from, 15 and even 14 going to my first show. And it really made sense leading up to that point, playing all these different shows, sleeping on people's floors, driving vans, dealing, with band drama and, practicing in basements and, all that just made sense leading up to getting that audition and then going to Brazil. Where I was like, of course I'm going to go to Brazil. Of course I'm going to audition. Like why? This is what I've been wanting to have that opportunity, to have that chance. And then when it came around, it was just really mind blowing. But at the same time, I didn't really know how massive it was because I only had an idea surrounding my own circumstances. Like I didn't have internet because internet wasn't. Yeah. Everybody didn't have it then. So I did, I had to go to the library, just to give you an example, to find a book about Brazil. Because I was like, I'm curious about Brazil since I'm going there and I've never been there. I should probably read up on it. So let me go to the library, get my library card. I got that book. That's how long ago it was, and they gave me a tape for the audition, like, check out this tape. So times have changed, so it was probably better that I joined the band and got to see everything for myself.
Yeah.
Instead of like online, like doing research, like, oh my God, oh Jesus, like, oh, this band is massive, like, yeah, it's a blessing that that wasn't the case.
What is the first thing that you realized when it's the difference in, say, the American metal scene, the hard music scene, and then the Brazilian Portuguese metal scene? What was the first thing that made you go, holy shit?
That's a good question. I think man, my light like died here. all those interviews.
It's all good, man. It's all good. It's not a problem.
Okay. Definitely, I think the American scene, there's more music going on. There's more shows. There were always tons of shows happening, especially in the 80s, when rock was just so massive, and just growing and getting bigger and lots of concerts and everything. South America, they missed a lot of that because they had a dictator. And so there were a lot of bands that weren't able to play there. So they weren't able to see live concerts and they didn't have accessibility to certain albums, but they became epic albums in the eyes of the people there because they appreciated when they did get to hear it and they'd latch onto it as their piece of, that rock and roll culture. And so once Rock in Rio hit there, then, everything just like blew up, but it was a little bit further behind America in the respect of where the scenes were. So that was the difference. When I got to Brazil, there was a lot of music from the 80s and 90s you hear on the radio. It was extremely popular. So I think the big difference is seeing live shows, like there weren't It's, in America, we're spoiled with shows all the time, depending on which city you're from. And there you weren't, that accessibility wasn't really there to see many shows and to hear a lot of music live.
Exactly. I mean, it does depend where you are. I don't think people in Chattanooga would be,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I grew up in Cleveland, so it's like a crossroads of many bands coming through, and now they have, of course, after I leave, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Whenever I think of Cleveland, I think of that 80s movie Major League. That is really sort of
okay.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And
I thought you were going to say a Spinal Tap, like, hello,
no,
Cleveland.
That's a given. That is an absolute given.
Okay.
Now, when you got into Sepultura, there was a catalog, it's lack of a better term. I hate using wanky DJ terms, but there was a big catalog behind you. So what you do as a vocalist, among a lot of other things, did you say, all right, I'm going to incorporate what's come in the past? Or were Andreas and Paulo like, no, man, do your thing? Because, and the reason why I asked that is I chatted with Andreas probably 3-4 months ago. And I asked him about the delicate question about when did you know Sepultura was, in its original, or not original incarnation, but... And he said that was every day. Every day there is a new Sepultura born. And so when it comes to you joining the band, was it something where you're like, I'm not going to try and sing like Max. I'm not going to try and write like Max. I'm going to do my own thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that was my idea from the very beginning. I was like, I got to be myself. I don't know these guys. I'm going to go do this audition. If I get a free trip to Brazil out of it, great. It's like, I'm going to go and I'm going to be myself. And if they want me to be a full member of the band, participating in writing, then I'll do it. Because I've only played in bands where that was the case, where I was friends with the members of the band and I was 100% the member participating in the writing process and everything. And that's how I wanted to keep it as a musician, as an artist. They were there weren't many bands that would ever do that, but they wanted that. They wanted somebody to participate in the writing, to be a part of the band, a full member from the very beginning. So this was something that was very unique and special. And it was definitely made me want to be a part of it even more. Like once I got there and I met everyone and realized like everyone's really cool. They're really in the same direction. And once I left Brazil and I was waiting to hear back from them, that's when I was really, 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 really wanted it, because I had met them, I had been there, and I kind of had a better idea of what direction it could go in. I knew it would take a long time in order for fans to get adjusted because they had such a long career before I joined the band, and a very strong career. But I was okay with that. I only wanted to focus on what I was going to bring to the table. That's all I could actually focus on. I didn't know the old singer. I didn't know anything about their history because I wasn't a part of it. I couldn't pretend to be a part of it because that wouldn't be realistic. So I only knew how to do myself. I didn't want to imitate Max or anything like that because I thought it was ridiculous. It wouldn't work. And people wouldn't really believe it. And that's not what they wanted. They wanted somebody, they wanted to start, like, again, a different Sepultura, Yeah. And I think a lot of people that did audition for the band tried to sound like Max. And that's what the label was kind of going for.
Really?
The look. Oh, yeah. Roadrunner, they wanted somebody to match in looks, sound, to duplicate everything that was done before, because they had no clue. They got lucky the fact that the timing and everything was there. But I mean, a lot of times labels can be clueless, and especially Roadrunner, they were trying to, do the easiest way, which is to duplicate what's been done. Don't break it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
And that wasn't our attitude at all. So they wanted somebody that had diversity. The demos I sent them, there wasn't even screaming. Some of it was like melodical, hardcore style of music. And they felt that they could really expand if they needed to do anything with the vocalist that could scream and sing and do a variety of different things.
Yeah. One thing I've always wanted to know, when a singer, especially somebody like yourself with the talent that you have, going from sort of like cleans to then growls and then, things like that. Do you, not trying to get, the magic of it, but I mean, do you, when you write a song or you write, for lyrics for a song, do you go, all right, I've just pounded my vocal cords, then I'm going to let Andreas take over for a bit just so I can clear the throat, have a glass of water. because it is almost unbelievable. Like, yeah, in a studio you can do that, but you also have this gift, this capability of doing it live, which I cannot get my fucking head around, especially for an entire set.
Yeah, I can't either. I mean, now that I had 2 years off, and, and I was asked to do, I don't know, some tracks for some heavy stuff of different bands. It was difficult because I hadn't been on the road. My voice wasn't warmed up as much as it normally is. It's like a muscle, you work it, it gets stronger. And I realized, like, wow, man, I got a headache. I'm kind of scratchy. I was like, oh, I forgot about the beginning phases of getting the voice into that, screaming mode of live tour, because it's brutal. It can be really, really hard. But after the many years of touring and practicing, I was able to really have a better understanding of it. So that means no alcohol, no talking, before a show, definitely not. Not a lot of talking after the show. Just keeping, like being as safe as possible so the show goes on, and so I was very fortunate in being disciplined on the road and doing warm-ups and warm downs after the show, and just taking good care of my voice, because my instrument is a part of my body, unlike everybody else's there. That's on the tour. Except maybe Aloy, because he's brutally beating the hell out of his drums. He's but it's a practice, man. It really, you have to be very focused and really take care of your voice and be clean, like have a really healthy sense of living on the road, mentally and physically. But once we get back into it, we're gonna have to have some serious practice sessions to get my voice back into shape again. But I'm looking forward to it.
Cannot wait, dude. I mean, this whole Sepultura thing came out, it was almost like a reaction to the pandemic. And what I got out of it when you guys did this was, there is not a single thing that will stop this band. And I think one of the great things as well is it's a little bit like throwing a party, in the sense of, you had, just over the series, let alone the album that's coming out, so many guests. I mean, how long was the list?
Well, it was a little of both. I mean, we would meet and discuss, like, hey, let's brainstorm some ideas of people that could possibly, that would want to do each week. And then we'd change it to every other week.
Yeah.
Every other Wednesday. So it really would come up like, it would have like a week of like, hey, what about, like, hey, we should probably do Orgasmatron. Yeah, we could at least have Phil do that. He wrote the song, part of the song. So, it makes sense that you do it. It's like, awesome. And then we would do it. And then we're like, all right, so let's think about who we can get for next week. It's like kind of like spontaneous. We didn't have like a big list. It was just like, oh yeah, somebody would mention somebody, like, yeah, let's reach out to them. And then we're fortunate that those people are down to do it. There were some people that were like, hey, I heard you were doing it. Why didn't you ask me? And it's like, okay, we'll have you on like in the next 2 weeks, 2 weeks later. And then it grew, and we got better at the recording process, and it started sounding really good. And it just happen organically and naturally. And then at the end of all that, we're like, wait a minute, we got a lot of material. We should put this out as an album. The songs sound totally different from the original. It's a different vibe, different feeling, and it's a very special time during the lockdown that this came about. And it probably wouldn't have come about unless we were in a pandemic, because it would have been very difficult to get all those musicians and their work schedule together along with our own to do an album. So it's kind of cool how it worked out the way that it did, where we weren't planning it. but it just ended up being something very special.
The album that came right before the pandemic, Quadra, and albums that came before that. Did you get much of a chance to get out on the road with Quadra at all? Or are you still got that itch where I really want to perform this live?
I really want to perform it live. Definitely have that itch. We didn't get to perform. We got to perform one song at Rock in Rio, and I was nervous as hell, but we did it, and I remembered the majority of the lyrics, and and we got to perform it in France, in Paris, for an opening party for Hellfest, like when they started to announce the bands, and that was it.
Yeah.
And then and so we're really, our focus is to get back on the road November, December. We have a tour planned for Europe. And then in March and April, North America. And both tours with Sacred Reich and Crowbar. Oh. So our main focus is to really get back on the road. And because we haven't toured at all on Quadra. And we normally tour, certain albums at least 2 years around the world. That's how long it takes us to really do a full world tour. So we absolutely want to do this with Quadra because I think we've had the best feedback from this album than any other album that I've been with the band. So I'm excited about that. And I think a lot of fans are too. They've had a lot of time to listen to it now. It's been almost 2 years.
Yeah.
So they better know every lyric of every
that's
song.
right. Yeah.
And so it should be a lot of fun.
You said that you remembered almost all the lyrics. Isn't the done thing at a festival, if you forget the lyrics, just take the mic out and just hold it to the crowd and let them sing it?
Not with the new song.
Just hush.
But they don't know the new song, so even if you do mess up, they're not going to really know. It's just that years later, when you look back at those, and they're like, "Oh, I remember when you guys were." It's like, "Oh my god, yeah." I was messing up the lyrics, man.
I've got this impression that Paulo is the nicest guy you would ever meet. Is that true?
It's absolutely wrong. He's evil.
He's
evil. He's sadistic and evil. No, he absolutely big heart. He's absolutely the nicest guy.
Yeah,
when he wants to be. He's hard-headed, very stubborn, but he's got a big heart. He's older than I am, so
Well, that's true.
He's got those old man tendencies at times.
I'll make sure that doesn't get back to him.
It's all right, man. We love him. Yeah. Much love, of course.
Pissing in anyone's pocket. When I say that translates, doesn't it? That phrase, pissing in anyone's pocket.
Okay. I like it. I've never heard it before, but I will use that.
Another one over here in Australia is if someone goes, you ready to do this? And the reply is, well, we're not here to fuck spiders. So that's another one. But no,
we're not here to fuck what? What's the last part?
Spiders.
Oh, spiders.
Yeah.
Wow. We're definitely not here to fuck spiders.
No, we are not.
And spiders are big enough in Australia that you probably would be fucking a spider or could. I mean, it's unimaginable here, but people don't know about huntsman spiders.
No, they don't. And they're completely non.
I do.
Oh, you bet.
I know they're harmless, but you don't want to bring that out at a party here. I don't think many people would understand the term, non-venomous and it won't hurt you.
Look, Derrick Green, thank you so much for having a chat with us. Tell Eloy, Paulo, and Andreas, Eli, the grumpy old man, and Andreas that we say hello and send them love from Australia. Cannot wait till you get back here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.